Dude, we're doing it.
This is the first episode?
It, man. This is the first one.
Love it.
I'm so excited.
I'm so excited too. Like, I'm so honored. Truly, I know we're not recording yet. Maybe we are. Hi guys.
Hey,
I'm
no, this is all usable.
I'm excited that we get to like jump in on a really new journey that's been super impactful to both of us and super impactful to just thousands and thousands of other people, and hopefully will be for a bunch of people who hear this. So this is super cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, I appreciate, for those of you that don't know, so Chris and I have known each other for, geez, like probably better part of a decade. And Chris has been helpful for me in getting this whole thing started. It started off in a different direction, and now here we are with a podcast, and seemed fitting that you would be my first episode. So I appreciate
Oh,
it, Chris.
that's so cool.
I don't know what I'm doing, so feel free to ad lib and enter in any recommendations or anything like that as you see fit. So it's good. We're figuring it
Can
out
I
as we
say
go.
one thing about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful listeners or watchers or however you're consuming this. We're going to talk about addiction and the process that we're going through right now, recording this podcast as a, I don't know what I'm doing. Just let me know there's a better way to do this. That is life, folks. It's life. Like, lean in, ask your questions. I don't even know if it's, you'll hear my story in a minute. I'm not even sure I'm committed to not continuing to, in my case, drink. Like, it's life. You're figuring it out, just like we're figuring out a podcast. So let's go.
Dude, let's do it. So, real quick, for those that don't know you, how did you wind up where you're at? What's kind of walk me through kind of your journey. Like, what was like childhood like? Where did you grow up? You know, that kind of thing.
Okay. Let's tell you where I'm at, and then I'll look backwards. I'm 47 years old. I've been married for 26 years, coming up in about a month. We've been together for about 30 years. Jill and I have been. We have 5 kids, age 17 to 24 right now, almost empty nesters. I'm an entrepreneur, and I love what I do. Jill's in the education and community space. She's actually in the middle of getting another master's right now. Like, she's super cool. That's who we are as people right now. Um, we end up on this wild journey, and we can kind of go back and say, here's where we started, and some of that makes a big difference, and some of it I'm not sure. So my story, like I think everybody's, is I had some things, good and bad, sent my way that were out of my control, and I did some things, good and bad, that were in my control, choices I made. um, I grew up in a really conservative religious home, with a very abusive dad. So a lot of sexual, emotional, spiritual abuse. So very, very confusing and rough process. And once my mom found out about it, she kind of helped cover that up, and just not a great setup. So I showed up as a young adult with an enormous amount of questions, a lot of cracks in the foundation as a person, not really rooted in anything like meaningful. The family was corrupt. The faith was corrupt. The relationship sets were corrupt. The Just not knowing how to throw the bathwater out without throwing the baby out, so to speak, because everything was
Right.
so muddled and tangled. I think that's a lot of
Right.
people's story, regardless of where they come from. And I started, I guess I want to say, trying to survive that process. And for some parts of me, surviving was like, I need to achieve and do and be a better person of faith, or be a better person to Jill or my kids, or be a better son to my parents that wouldn't quite admit that there was this bigger problem as there was, all the things. Um, and some of that was very like go get it oriented. I'm a pretty driven person. Um, so sometimes my addiction would show up more on the side of, I'm going to keep banging my head against this wall because I have a pretty tough head and I can keep going after it. The other side of that was, I would go all in to try to survive and be healthy, and then collapse. So very much a daily, weekly quarterly, yearly roller coaster in every way. All in, go, 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 survive, 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 fix, 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 and then collapse emotionally, which was where alcohol and other bad acting out behaviors, sexually, all that kind of stuff, would come into play, because I needed somewhere to go and quote unquote recover, even if it wasn't the most healthy way to recover. That was my recovery, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So as an adult, you get around more and more people, you have more conversations like this, and you realize other people are doing this in a healthier way. So when I was 27, so now 20 years ago, I went to my first therapist appointment, because I was on the verge of killing myself. And I told Jill, I was just crying as I was doing so much. We had 3 little kids. Sit next to the bed crying. She came in and she was like, didn't know what to say. It's happened over and over again. And I was letting her know I'm done. I gotta check out. Like, I gotta wrap this one up.
Maxed out.
Yeah.
Yep.
And she really just asked me, hey, go see a therapist. And I'd already tried that, by the way. My dad was a minister / therapist. You know how those lines get kind of blurred.
Sure. Yeah.
And he was acting as my therapist. So I thought I had given that a try. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was 5 minutes into a really good therapist's office, and that dude pinpointed a few things really quickly, and it got really difficult and hard and confusing, and I started healing. And started drinking.
Yeah, the stress. It's like, I got to take that job.
Yeah, that's a tough session. I gotta go to the grocery store real quick.
Drink in my car real quick and cool down before I go home.
So yeah, that's where it kind of all started. And honestly, weird mix, man. I started healing, started drinking, started doing positive things and negative things all at the same time, trying to sort it out. And isn't that the journey? So
It absolutely is. Well, first off, dude, I really appreciate you being as open and candid and vulnerable with me. I appreciate that. I can imagine that, growing up in that household, I've known people over the years that have had a very similar story, that as a kid, they start getting abused in one way or the other, and they don't know that what's happening is wrong. And then immediately that cycle, as soon as they realize what is happening, they put it on themselves. That like somehow along the line, they're the one that messed up, that they're the one that is not meeting the expectation of, the abuser, basically, family member or whoever. Did you feel like you bore the responsibility to like either stop it or keep it going on or hiding it? Like, did you feel like you were the one that was in charge, like as a kid, like that it was up to you and that weight was like weighing down on you?
yeah, it was like Jekyll and Hyde inside me. I was thinking it was in my power to dress a certain way, act a certain way, attract my abuser's attention to get the attention I wanted.
Sure.
Because when you're a kid, the attention's great, but you're not realizing how much damage it's doing to you. And you're not realizing until you get a little older and your friends are laughing about jokes that you're like, oh, wait, that joke is actually what's happening in my home.
Right.
This is not normal. And then the other side was, so I thought it was my fault that I was creating the opportunity to attract my dad's attention that way. And then the other side of me hated the aftermath of everything every time. I used to dress a certain way to get his attention and go to bed many, many nights, hundreds of nights, with an open knife next to me, thinking I was going to end him next time he came into my room.
Yeah.
I didn't have the guts to do it. And I guess I don't know, I'm glad about that. I'd hate to be, it's so screwed up.
Yeah. It's just more on your plate. I mean, it's heavy, you know what I mean? It's like we were talking earlier about like parenting and those kinds of things. And it's hard enough when you have parents that want the best for the kid, and they're not listening, and they're not, paying attention, and they're not doing the right thing. now switch that to a situation where that you were in, where you're powerless, but you were trying to get this attention. But then there's the guilt of what's going on. There's the hatred towards the person that's supposed to be taking care of you. And then you fast forward that they become the person that is supposed to like cure you. Or it's just, how do you get out of that?
It's it's madness. It's like being in quicksand. There's just the more you try to get out of it, the worse it gets. Yeah. For
Yeah.
me, nothing started working until I went to a therapist. I don't know about you or anybody else, but like the only way out of the quicksand for me was a therapist. And that's like somebody outside the quicksand throwing you the rope or something, and you're still stuck, but
Right.
at least you're not sinking maybe a little bit for a second, you know?
Yeah.
It's
Did you do any like with the therapy? Was it more talk therapy or was it like my dad's a counselor and he does he's specific to trauma. And he's been doing it for 20 plus years and does EMDR. Are you familiar with that? Yeah.
that's what that turned it around for me. I've done it all. But finally the best trauma therapist, she does sexual abuse trauma specifically in our region, got referred to her. And that was because, interesting, really, Paul, I did a podcast 10 years ago about hope for 125 episodes because I was in the healing process and I was suicidal. And so in that process, one of my guests told me about EMDR and acupuncture and hypnosis. They're like those three things. And I was like, this is all freaking hocus pocus. And they were like, please just try one. So I was like, I actually got referred to some EMDR quack like last week, you know? And they're like, do it. I was like, all right, I'll do it and report back to you. And it took like 6 or 8 months for me to actually start seeing some results. But then all of a sudden I was like, you
Well,
know, her name's Tanya. I was like, Tanya, I watched a Disney movie the other day and I didn't freak out and have to run out of the room,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah. It's awesome. And I think the reason that I started this whole thing is that, so, you know, alcohol for me looked probably very similar to what a lot of people would describe as just like having fun, right? Like I grew up, my parents were very religious, very conservative. I think to this day, I've seen my dad drunk once. It was with my father-in-law. They had like 3 glasses of wine, 4 glasses of wine around Christmas. My father-in-law is playing the guitar, and my dad is having the best time, right? Like ideal scenario for my dad. Up until that point, um, like a glass of wine or a couple Coronas or something like that, and then that was it. There was no impairment. He was really good about not driving, even if he like smelled wine. And so for me, it just started like I've got ADD, got diagnosed. So my dad being similar to your dad in that like he retired from his first career, went back to school, got his master's in counseling. He'd gone through a ton of counseling. He's got a bunch of like anxiety and depression stuff that he's worked through over a lifetime. But he started, as he was going through his second career journey, he started looking at like my behavior, right? And was like, I think you might have ADD. I think I mean, there's some areas I was struggling in pretty heavily. I wasn't acting out, which I'm very thankful for. I drank for the first time in 8th grade. It's at my friend Tom's house. I just got knee surgery, and he's like, "Hey, do you want a shot of Jack Daniels?" I'm like, "Sure, that sounds great." Right? We go to his room. He has this like fifth of Jack Daniels in his room. Pours me a shot, take the shot or whatever, and obviously it didn't taste good. But I'm like, okay. And we just kind of did that throughout the day. And I didn't have anything to compare it to other than like my knee stopped hurting and I was on crutches at the time. And we're outside and I'm like running. I was like, dude, Tom, my knee got fixed. Dude, this is incredible. And so, we keep going. And I don't how his parents didn't know that we were drunk. We were drinking, like pouring Jack Daniels into lemonade. We were having dinner with his family. Like Tom's a mess. Like, but in my head, like I was waiting for this like thing to happen, and it didn't happen. And so I felt like I was like I had to fake being drunk, right? To like have fun with my friend who was obviously having a very good time. and I felt like I was missing out. So I had to like, I remember thinking that I had to like pretend, you know. I probably was super drunk, but like in my head, it felt like I was having to pretend. I, you know, go back home the next day after the sleepover, feel fine because I'm in eighth grade. And I just have this like guilt, right? And like a couple days go by, I can't sleep. I come out to the living room. I tell my dad, I'm like, hey, I had, you know, I drank with Tom, and he's like, well, how much did you have? And I was like, well, I think I had like 7 or 8 shots of Jack Daniels. And he about fell out of his chair, you know, like the guy that has like wine at church and like a beer twice a year is like, holy shit, Paul. Like, so, you know, I didn't drink all the way till high school, senior year, drank, went crazy at a, uh, like senior graduation party. But I was close enough to my parents where like I, instead of going to a friend's house, you know, I'm puking and whatever, and I had them deliver me to my parents' house. And neither one of those situations, like if you think about it, like I wasn't casually drinking ever. I was just shooting the moon immediately, right?
Mm.
Like there was no concept of like moderation. um at all ever. And so, but when you keep doing that, for me it was just like constantly like chasing and chasing and chasing and chasing and chasing, um to where it just like I would rather not drink than, you know, than have like a drink or two, you know. um did you, when you were going through that, like obviously you have a lot on your plate, you know, you're trying to manage, um you know, what you got in your head, what you got in your heart, what you've got in life, you know, you're trying to kind of probably block things out. When did you start using, like when did you start drinking, as far as like, or using, as a way to like cope, or did you go that route? Would you
When I was
just immerse yourself?
28, 29, somewhere in there.
Oh, so
Yeah.
you went a significant amount of time just like
Yeah. I was a
raw dogging it, as they say, you
I
know.
was an adult with I guess we had four kids. Maybe, yeah, when I had the first drink. So we just had our fourth kid, I think, something like that. Yeah, I'd never had a drop of alcohol before. And Jill and I were kind of like getting a little bit out of the religious, where we grew up in a place where like nobody drank, not even like, you know, not
Sure.
even communion at church or something like that. Um, so we were on a vacation actually going skiing. Somebody let us, we got a little place in Breckenridge, somebody let us have. We were skiing for like an anniversary trip or something, and we snuck to a liquor store in Breckenridge, Colorado. I mean, I live in Memphis, Tennessee, and we were so freaking worried that someone would see us. It's like we were 12 years old going in a liquor store.
Were
So
you
we
out like on a church trip, or just
No, it was just us, we're two 28-year-old adults just out on an anniversary week, right? I mean, so we got a bottle of champagne and some orange juice. Had no idea what we were doing. Like, we're gonna make
yeah,
whatever. I think it's like I don't know, people drink it for breakfast. Like, we didn't know what to call it, you know.
yeah.
And so we're literally sitting there having our first drink. So it didn't feel a thing because we're like, I think I had a few ounces of champagne, and I don't know. I stand up. Do I feel dizzy? No. I mean, I didn't know what to do.
Yeah. You're like
So
doing what I was doing in like eighth grade.
yeah, yeah, you're ahead of me.
Am I
You're
there
advanced.
yet? Have I made it? Yeah.
Yeah. So, but shortly after that, give myself a month, and I figured it out. And I was like, I'm AD as well. And I was like, okay, this stuff takes the edge off of the pain and takes the edge off of the crazy that's in my brain of just being ADD and all the stuff. Like, it just dials it back. So, kind of from that point on until 6 months ago, I've had a drink almost every day, as in had a drink. I've been drinking almost every day.
Yeah.
And a lot of those days, I'm somebody who gets sick really bad when I get drunk. So I don't want to get drunk. But, I could stretch a bottle of wine out over 4 hours
Mhm.
and stay chill and happy. And that's pretty bad.
I think, you know, it's funny because like when I first, like I made a whole series of really bad decisions, leading up to deciding I needed to go to AA. And when I got there, it's funny because I'm finding myself do the same thing right now. When I was sitting in the parking lot, I'm like, these guys are a bunch of addicts. These people are like just they're probably homeless, like just total pieces of shit. Like I don't belong there. Like they're and I, sweating bullets, probably still hungover. And I finally go in and, people are sharing and stuff like that. And um I remember leaving the first meeting being like, man, you know what? I'm not that bad. There's some guy that's sharing about like how he'd been homeless for however like 10 years, just like doing whatever he possibly could for drugs and alcohol. And like I never did that, and people are like, the bank foreclosed on my house, and so I was like, I just built a house, I've got a nice house, I got a good setup, and I start like that addict brain of mine is like, you're probably good.
It's
You're
okay.
probably good, and so it's funny because even like right now, I'm like, oh, you're only stretching a bottle of wine out over 4 hours. Like, that's Chris, come on. Like, that's not,
Yeah.
let's be
If
real
you're
here.
gonna drink, then drink. All right, buddy, come on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's like, I think that's the part that I'm hoping with this podcast is that it shines light on addiction looks different to everybody. But the common thread is that what is it doing to your life, right? Is it allowing you to accomplish the goals that you want, right? Is it having the impact on your family that you want? Are you a better dad? Are you a better spouse? Are you a better employee? Like, are projects getting done? And there's probably a lot of people out there that drink and use all the time that probably say, yeah, I'm actually probably pretty good, and that's a different conversation. But it's it's
I,
tough because it does look so different for everybody, you know? Go ahead.
I, I'm not interrupting you. I
Mm-mm.
okay. I I actually right now. Okay, so everybody, I quit. I had my last drink on the 3rd of June, 2024. The date we're recording this is December 5, 2024. So I'm right at the 6 month, 7 month mark, something like
Yeah.
that. I am not committed to not drinking, which is kind of fun for this
Yeah.
podcast in a sense. Man, I have one tattoo. I've told you this, Paul. I have one tattoo, everybody. I have one tattoo on the inside of my left bicep. And if you're listening, I'm massive, huge biceps. If you're watching, sorry for the disappointment.
Yes.
Oh.
Ridiculous. Hard to keep them in the frame.
So I have the word free written in a tattoo there because I want to be free. I got that tattoo when I all of a sudden was walking down the street with my daughter one day. She was going to a tattoo shop to get a piercing in her ear. I was going there with her. She was not 18 yet. And she was like, you should get a tattoo. I've been talking about it forever. And I was like, I want the word free. It's been 3 years since I was suicidal. Like, that's what I realized. So I got that word free. That's the only tattoo I've ever gotten. And it means it's so meaningful to me. And so for the past, no joke, 5 or 6 years, I've been quite happily drinking. And I actually wonder if I'm a better dad. Truly, I think that right now. I think I might be a better dad, a better spouse, more fun to hang out with when I'm drinking.
Sure.
If anybody's struggling, so sorry. It's real, but that's the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I've been telling myself I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to put it down. I'm going to give it a month off. I'm just going to take a little break
Yeah.
because I'm a runner. I like being active. I want to take care of my liver, all this stuff. I've been trying to take a month off for over 5 years,
Yeah.
and I've tried a lot.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, we were one of my kids, my son just graduated high school, so we were going to take a big trip out to the mountains for a month and camp this summer. And so I used that as a jumping off point to be like, okay, I got a month of camping and hiking. I can be distracted enough where I'm not going to need to drink. I'm just going to try it for a month. And I did it. And I came back and said, okay, I'm going to do it for a month now that I'm in town and see how that goes. And now I'm 7 months in. And now
Yep.
I'm committed for a year. And I don't know yet if I'm better with or without. I honestly don't, Paul. I know that it's not healthy for me. And I know I've had such a hard time quitting. And we had family over for Thanksgiving recently, and there was some really good punch out. And people were like, you could, it's just have some punch. It's not a big deal. You're not swearing off alcohol forever. I didn't do it because I'm scared to death. If I go back, I'll never quit. You know,
Right.
it's such a
Oh, dude,
fast.
100%. It was funny. So like, I've never, up until I went to AA, like, I'd never been like, I'm not gonna drink for this amount of time. It was always like, I've got like a, in the big book and in other resources, it talks about like I was just checking the boxes as I'm reading the book, right? I'm like, yeah, I do that. I do that. I tried, changing alcohol. I'm not going to drink whiskey. I'm only going to drink vodka. I hate beer, so I'm not going to go that route. I'll just like, I've got, a timer on my watch, but pretty quick, I'm just like, what am I doing? Like, I'm here to party. I'm here to hang out. I'm here to have a good time. I'll keep it under wraps. And the next thing you know, I'm the most drunk person in the room, or if somebody's got drugs, then I'm like, let's go. I don't need to sleep for the next like day and a half. So, it's like, but I never had it in my head that I was only going to quit for a little while. It was always that like individual, uh, party or event or something like that. And it was always on the heels of like, my ex-wife and I getting in some huge argument. We were both shit-faced, said a bunch of stuff. And it's like, okay, we were drunk, we said some stupid stuff, or I did something stupid. Next party, I'm gonna hold off. Right. But inevitably I would always find an excuse when I was keeping it just like this in this moment. Um, to be like, I'll have a shot with everybody. Everyone's like cheersing, that's the only thing I'm gonna have, and until it got to the point where like, my wife Jessica and I, we've been together for 6 years, and we got married right around COVID, and we did like a little elopement like on a property that we were going to build on, and our honeymoon got postponed for like almost 2 years. So we go to Mexico and immediately just cranking tequila, thinking I'm having a great time. I'm a total asshole. And we do this like 3 days in a row. And on the third day, I'm all tuned up. We're arguing, she's crying, she's drunk. And she tells me, she's like, I I have thought about jumping off of this balcony. We were on the sixth floor of our hotel multiple times on this trip. This is where we're at right now. And again, because I'm fucked up, like now I'm sad and I'm angry. I'm disappointed in myself. And what was my response? The next day, I'm pissed off. I'm sad. I grab like four like Trulies or whatever from our cooler that's in our hotel room. She's still in bed. I throw them in my pockets and I leave for 2 hours and just walk the beach drinking by myself.
Wow.
And we were there for a week, and so then I went to the other extreme of like, okay, I'm not going to drink at all. I'm not going to drink on the rest of the trip. Exactly like what I was doing before. Was like, I do this thing, I'm apologetic. The answer is I'm just not going to drink in the rest of the trip, right? And then there was like two other circumstances, right shortly after, And so for me, like I couldn't give myself the out of like, I'm just not going to drink for this party. I'm not going to drink for this situation or like this amount of time. Um, and so I went into AA being like, okay, I'm not going to drink forever. And one thing that they told me, or that I learned through the process, is that you don't have to quit drinking forever. Like that's the one thing that I think really intimidates people a lot, is like, this is something I really enjoy. This is something that's a part of like, holidays. It's a part of sports stuff. It is things that I do with my boys. Like when I go golfing, like, it's so ingrained in like what we do and have fun. The idea of not having that element of fun is really scary. My cousin quit drinking, and he is an avid hunter, and he won't go hunting anymore. Like
Those go together to make
because they
it
go
work.
together, right? He's like, I know that they're gonna, we're gonna be drinking at the campsite, and I'm just not gonna do that. And I was like, well, dude, are you going to AA? Are you doing anything else? And he's like, no, I'm just not drinking. And I was like, and so my recommendation to him is always like, just check it out. Because for me, it's a level of accountability, but it also gives me some skills that I can fall back on. So like, I've been to Vegas 4 times now since I quit drinking, and
Oh, wow.
had no issues.
That's great.
Um, and I'm with a group of people that are all drinking, but it's one of those things where you set yourself up for success. because you had something to kind of fall back on.
Mhm.
And so for me, I don't have the mindset of like, I'm never going to drink again, even though that's where I'm going. I'm not drinking today.
Mhm.
And then I reset that tomorrow. I'm like, okay, I'm just not going to drink today, you know?
Yeah.
And it becomes less intimidating, that like future trip of like, 10 years from now, what if I want to like have a glass of champagne at whatever, you know? And I'm just not the guy that can do that. I can't. It's not, it's not an option for me. It gets
It's
real
on or
bad real
off.
fast.
Yeah. I I'm I'm the kind of guy that the bigger I make the stakes, the more I want to break them.
Mhm.
You know, the
100%.
yeah, I so just man, I want to push the button. So I'm afraid that if I say I'm not drinking again, that's going to make it 10 times harder. Let me back up a step, not back up. For anybody that's trying to figure that out, you're listening to the two of us talk about this. You're like, I'm so confused. Should I drink or should I not? I don't know. Chris is like, yeah. What to do about it? The big question is, if you're watching or listening, however you're consuming this content, the big question is, why are you listening and watching this? You got questions, right? You're trying to figure it out. Man, I I don't know that a 12-step program is right for you. I don't know that going to a therapist is right for you. I don't know that Paul's version, my version, any other book you can read, whatever. What I do know, after interviewing 125 people on our show a decade ago and doing this right here with you, and Paul, you and I talked to so many people who are in the same story, is that you got to freaking do something. You got to like put down the judgment for a second. Don't judge yourself. Like, if you're like, but I don't want to do this, so it is technically judging. Okay, cool, fine, whatever. But don't beat yourself up.
Yeah.
What do you want to do next? You don't have to become a completely different human. But if you do want to take a step to talk to someone, or a step to learn more about a pattern you want to change, or a step to be a better version of you for yourself and others, or whatever that means for you. Again, I'm not convinced yet that drinking makes me better or worse, but I'm taking a step to find out, is this the right play for my life? And so far, I'm scared to say this out loud because I really enjoy drinking, but so far, this has been a good step.
Good.
So, wherever you are in the journey, dear listener, like, take a next step. That's all there is to
Oh,
it.
absolutely. And I am far from an expert in anything. I've only got 2 years of sobriety. So at some point in time, I could come on here and be like, well, I fucked up and I, did this and this, and I'm back on the wagon. And the thing I come back to is, and this isn't a promotion to AA or any one particular program. It's, AA is what has worked for me. And there's a whole host of other resources for people. So I just encourage people to do a little, you know, you're on your phone anyways. You might as well just throw a little Google search out there and see what's out there and see what you know fits for you. And maybe this program is all you need, or this podcast is all you need, just a couple of knuckleheads just talking about things we're struggling with, and working on getting better, but the coolest thing, and I've talked about this in AA several times, is so I grew up in the church like you, and um it doesn't matter the denomination. I grew up Catholic, switched over to like a non-denominational deal at a certain point. It just was what resonated with where I was at. And but again, it doesn't matter what brand you subscribe to. The commonality is, if you don't do the thing that we are telling you to do, even though that we're doing the bad thing ourselves, but we're going to cast judgment, right? It's, somebody in the community, they get a DUI or they cheat on their spouse, or, whatever it is. The community that is supposed to support you the most, who is using Jesus as their reference point for how they should treat others, ends up being the one that is the most judgmental and shuns them, right? That's where
Mhm.
you get these real extreme alternative churches where everything goes, we're not judgmental, and so it becomes more of like a club than it does like an actual like um religious practice, I guess. That's just my experience with that. But in AA, and whenever I travel, I've been all over, and I always try to hit a meeting. and I grab little tidbits here and there, but um, the one common thing is that they don't kill their wounded, right? Somebody comes in with 20 years of sobriety, their spouse dies, their mom, dad dies, they, something, financial hardship, whatever. They come back in and they're like, I went off the rails. I've been out for, however long. But I'm back and um, I'm committed to this thing. And everybody, it's like a round of applause. It's, we love you, like, welcome back. How can we support you? What do you need? I honestly feel like more churches should take that approach and go and sit in these group meetings, because people would feel less ostracized. They would feel less judged. They would feel less, I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that are like, yeah, I just don't want to go there and see the dude that I work with. And now he knows that I have a problem, or I know he's got a problem, and they're going to judge me and whatever. And that's just people being people. But the this amount of support that are in these groups, because we all have one thing in common. We are struggling. Alcohol or drugs is the way that we're coping with things. And it might not be the healthiest for us. And it's leading to some poor behavior. And or if at the least it's a dependency, right? Like
Yeah.
if I have to do this one thing before I go to a party, or before I get on stage and speak, or before I go to a work event, um, that's I probably shouldn't do that, like, or at least try not to and see how it goes, and but yeah, it just the group thing is so supporting. You leading your groups too, for work. It's like the amount of value and support that everyone gives each other, bunch of strangers with the same goal. Like, let's improve our lives. How can I support you? That's so awesome. That's what the country needs, you know?
Yeah, that's what humans need. Yeah, man, I love that. Yeah, I love that. I Everybody just give yourself some grace and some space. I I grew up Baptist, and I'm nothing now. Um, Jill's definitely a strong person of faith. I so respect where she's at, but we've gotten out of that judgy space. And um I tell you what, it's so true. Having a place where you can be real and be authentic and work on the parts of you that you want to work on,
Mhm.
that's it. Like, that's the ticket.
Yeah.
Go find that place for you.
Yeah.
And if people are judging you and pushing you down, or pulling you in a direction that you don't think is healthy for you, both of those extremes are unhealthy. Who do you want to be, and where's that community? And I found the same thing. The therapeutic communities like AA. I went to a place called Onsite for a residential program to start healing. Look up those, whatever works for you. Finding that safe place. I still got so many friends from my group experiences that we ended up in group chats on or whatever. And on Thanksgiving Day, just a few weeks ago, we were exchanging a ton of drinking memes,
I just did the same
and none
thing.
of us were drinking, but
Yeah.
freaking who cares? Like, it's just, we're safe there. I can say, oh my gosh, the family's over. Why am I not drinking right now? And I know
Right.
that's funny because it's real.
Right. 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 It's, I love where you're at in your journey. I think it's awesome that you are just saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to take a step back from this. I'm going to give myself an end goal. Um, and the biggest thing I would tell anybody that's deciding, hey, I'm maybe just today, or I'm going to set this goal for a week or a month or a year, whatever, um, is not only give yourself a pat on the back for doing that, because that's super hard, but also start to notice like things that do get better. I think
Mm.
that for me. I'm so thankful that I have the wife and partner that I do. I couldn't do this on my own, She's been really good about pointing out the things that are different in how I respond to things, how I think about things, how I carry myself. Like, we never argue sober.
Mm.
We always argued drinking. right?
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
even now, because my wife still drinks, and she's actually here recently um, decided that she's gonna pursue sobriety. To what degree, I don't know. She relies a lot on it, on like social anxiety, like big
Same here.
groups, stuff like that. It's like I got to get a couple under my belt to relax.
Yep.
Um, and so that's something that together we'll work through and figure out, what that looks like for her. But you know, her pointing out like how like the positive things in my life that have changed that I am blinded to because I'm in my lane, right? Like everything seems pretty like normal, is so important. Like having that support system. So I really feel for people that are, single, they're on their own, they're doing whatever. Maybe life is a little bit more difficult. So they're not getting that reinforcement. And that's where a program of some kind, a Zoom meeting, those kinds of things, like just communicating with somebody else can reinforce that positive change is happening when you're not recognized. I don't know if that's something that you and Jill go through. Like, does she like, man, Chris, like the way that you handled that thing is different. Like, or the way that you came across was different.
I'm sure not saying anything negative about how Jill sees this or sees me, but I don't think about that way. And she doesn't either. She's like,
Mm,
we're just doing our normal life. So I
yeah,
definitely probably focus more on I miss parts of this than I do on I'm gaining parts of this.
sure.
And I totally admit to that. Um, Jill doesn't drink much. She's totally a lightweight. She never has. Um, so she's like, cool, you're not drinking. But she's like, if I had a drink tonight, she wouldn't care. She'd be like, well, whatever works for you. She's super chill.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and it sounds like too for you, like drinking wasn't something where you're just like getting just obliterated and then like yelling at your kids and your wife, right?
No, I was using alcohol to manage social anxiety, manage the ADHD, manage the hardest days. But dude, half a bottle to a bottle a night, or four, cocktails,
Yeah,
a little, they're doubles,
yeah.
or
Okay.
whatever it is.
Do they make them
That's
not in doubles?
yeah. Those things are going to catch you eventually. Like I, I stopped because I'm like, this is gonna kill me, like my liver cancer, whatever. But I was trying to stop for 5 or 6 years. And
Yeah,
the old joke of, oh yeah, I can quit whenever I want to. I would, yeah, but I couldn't,
right,
which tells
right.
me, okay, I'm dependent. That is what it is. There's no way around it.
Yep. Yeah. Well, exactly right. And that's, my wife and I were talking. I was trying to figure out this whole podcast thing, and we were recording in the car. And the funny thing is, she'd had like half a bottle of champagne, and so she was real honest. But she was just
You
hilarious.
should
So we're
have
talking about
you should all your
sobriety. Is my
people who
wife
are
is
drinking on
drinking
this side. Yeah.
champagne? Yeah, dude. But that was the challenge that I gave to her too. Is like, you know, when you have to do whatever it is before you enter into a circumstance or a situation that is creating a little bit of anxiety, um and you have to like shut it off or dull it with a substance, or it doesn't even have to be a substance, but um that's when it should click over, like, okay, I should be aware of this, and maybe it's something I should give myself a break from so that I can continue on. I wish that I could continue drinking, to be fair. Like I wish that I could, have a nice bottle of bourbon or a nice bottle of whiskey, have a couple of glasses, like just enjoy and hang out. I'm jealous of the people that can do that, because I can't. But it's just that first step, I think, for so many people is just be aware. And I think a lot of us, whether it's social media, whether it's our work, whether it's family stuff, kids stuff, we get so bogged down with like all the other things that we do need a little bit of a break of some sort, and I haven't fully. Do you meditate at all?
Yeah. It's been
Do
helpful.
you? Oh man, how did you get into that? Because I can't. I'll fall asleep, or my
I,
brain,
I
my
use
little squirrel brain is just flying around.
I'll tell you a life hack here. I use an app called Balance.
Okay.
It's if you're watching on the screen, it's the one right in the middle there with the little bee that's blue, dark blue and light blue. Balance. And it gives you, like, you start with like 2 minutes, 5 minutes, something like that. it kind of lets you get a streak like you're on Duolingo, and you can like try to tag the days together, gamifies it a little bit, and before long, you're knocking out like 20-minute meditation sessions and you're a rock star.
Yeah.
And that's really helped me. Like, that's what I'll do. I'll do that or go for a run at the end of a stressful workday, because like at the end of a stressful workday, it's easy for me to run into the kitchen, grab a glass of wine or mix a drink up or something. And I mean, truly, in a couple of minutes, you're like, whew, pressure's off.
Sure.
This gives me a place to relieve the pressure and then go make some logical decisions. I've shifted to I drink Sprite Zero now instead of a glass of wine, because it gives me something to do with my face and my hands. I've had to recreate some patterns,
Yes.
but here's the deal. Like, I think about wanting to have a drink a couple times a month. Like, I could really use a drink right now, like for realsies.
Yeah.
But I get 5 or 10 minutes past that, have some Sprite Zero. This is silly, but I replaced alcohol with ice cream,
Sure.
which isn't healthy because now I have way too much ice cream. It's still an addiction.
It's still an addiction, right? Exactly. Like, so because I'm an idiot. So when I divorced my ex, like in 2018, living by myself, doing some heavy solo drinking, because that's what you do, right?
I prefer drinking alone,
And
though. People say you should never drink alone. That's like the freaking best time to drink. I don't know about you, but
yeah, I mean, I get it. I just like being around people, which is funny that you like drinking by yourself.
I just like,
But
I'm there to chill. I don't care. Yeah.
sure. No, man. See, again, like, yeah,
This is not
I
helping
feed off of
people.
everybody. I'm like, oh yeah, we gotta keep going. But so I decided, like, okay, um, the to ramp this up, I'm gonna start doing the like nicotine pouches.
Oh yeah.
So I'd never smoked before, other than when I was drinking. I didn't chew or anything, and so I would start using like the nicotine pouches. So I did all that, then it was like, oh, okay, like this is my thing now. I do that in drinking. And then when I quit drinking, I ramped up both. I'm full on caffeine addict. Which has its other
I'm drinking Celsius in this bottle, dude. That's what this is.
dude, just quad shot Americano in this thing. Like,
I've got caffeine pills right here. Like
well, yeah, just keep it going. And so here, I don't know, like a few weeks ago, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna quit nicotine, right? And so I started using these things, Alpha. You can get them on Amazon.
Cool.
Let's see here. Yeah, I don't know if you can see.
I've
There you go.
I've never bought one. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So nootropics, I feel like it like mellows me out a little bit. They have ones that have caffeine in it. It gives you that kind of like sensory feedback of like having something in your lip. So I go full on that, right? I'm just gonna cold turkey this thing, whatever. And I'm looking, I made it like a week, and I'm looking in the back of my car, and there's like a handful of like cans of like the pouches that I was using. And I'm like, it would be fiscally irresponsible of me to let these things go,
I don't
right?
want to waste money. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to waste money. So what I'll do is I'm just gonna like I'll have one, and then I'll just let it sit, And so then I was like, well, I'm using less. I got my other can of nicotine thing here. I'm back. So it's one of those things where it's like, for me, it's picking my battles. So many people quit all the things all at once. You see the people, like a buddy of mine, went through a hard breakup, and he's like, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go and do substance abuse treatment. I am going to like be celibate, like all this stuff, and you just watch it on social media as people are like posting their like fitness journey or what a recovery journey. And then, pretty soon you see them back just like partying. So you overwhelm yourself, same with like dieting, right? People are like, I want to lose this weight, so I'm just going to not eat sugar at all, or no carbs, or whatever. And it's like, dude, just give yourself something like,
One little step.
one little thing, right? And that's why I go back to like, just, I'm not drinking today. Or, somebody had mentioned in one of the meetings, like when you feel like you want to have a drink and you want to stop at that liquor store, just don't go to that liquor store. Go to the next one. And then when you get to that next one, I'll go to the next one. And next thing you know, you're home and you're like, well, shit, like I'm good. I guess I'm good, and it's stacking those little, like better choices for me that have been super helpful. I don't, yeah.
Same here.
Yeah.
So, man, okay.
Dude.
I know we got to go in a few, but
Yeah.
first of all, great conversation. For anybody
Yes.
listening in, have conversations like this. I'm growing, and this is support. Like, I'm getting support here. Thank you for creating this space, Paul.
Of course.
For
Dude,
those
my
of you,
goal is that people will, whether they listen to this or they follow my Instagram page, the Addictions podcast, as this starts to grow, I want people to engage because, you know, everybody that is seeking that out has either thought about it or they have something they're going through. They don't know the process. They don't know what to do, or they just want to be part of a group. That's what this is about, is creating a group of like-minded people that have their shit, and it's one day at a time for all of us, whether you have an addiction that is negative or you have addiction that is positive. Like, I'm hoping that we get people on that are, I would put you in the same category of addicted to success. The things that you have done and accomplished are admirable, and I want to talk more about that too at a future date. I want to inspire people to make just a little bit better choice every day. And if that has to do with substances, then let's do that. We'll have episodes where it's my wife and I. We've got this really cool communication book that we work through, and just how that's really impacted our relationship in a positive way. And so it's kind of hitting things from all sides, and I hope that people listen to this and say, man, there's a couple things that resonate with me. And if people have topics that they want discussed, or get my opinion on something, or call me out and be like, hey, what you said was bullshit, like, I don't agree, like, I'm all for that, because that's what this is about, is people don't need to be alone through
yeah,
this. And I hope it just is another lever for people to pull, as far as like getting some support and having a community, for sure.
completely agree.
Dude, is
Paul, good
there?
work. Like, thank you for the
Thank you.
space. Thanks
Yes.
for everybody engaging. Like, for real, I'm the same way. Once I started engaging and actually talking to other people about it, the ease of making choices, the pressure of what choices I had to make, all of that started really getting better.
Yep.
So reach out,
Dude,
dude.
love this. Sweet. Well, I love you, brother. Good to see you.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for the time today. And
See you.
yeah, man, I'll talk to you soon.
Episode 1. Wow.
Episode 1. We did it.
Let's go.
Love it. All right, brother. We'll talk to you.
See you, man.
You take care.